we are gathered here today to protest the killings of over 3,600 Filipinos without due process, without evidence, without trial. This is systematic extrajudicial killing, and it's been instigated and encouraged by President Rodrigo Duterte. This is unacceptable under international law, and it's an abomination toward human rights. It is possible that he could suppress temporarily the drug trade in the Philippines, but it merely pushes it further underground, thereby keeping people away from adequate health services and seeking the help they might need. This is not a program for rehabilitation. In fact, he has said he is not interested in rehabilitation. In fact, as your UN ambassador just said, he after praising Hitler and the genocide of Jews, he said there will be no room for rehab. This is absolutely disgraceful and it's unacceptable. You might be able to suppress some of the drug trade temporarily, but when it comes back, it's going to be much worse. It's like the tsunami. The seas rush out to the ocean. It looks calm, and there's all this new land that's been exposed. But when the water comes back, that's where the real damage gets done. What we're seeing in the Philippines is, we'll soon be seeing, is that rush of water back in as the drug gangs who had fought and established turf lines in previous years have to then reestablish new turf lines. There's only one thing worse than organized crime, and that's disorganized crime. If you look at the lessons from Mexico, after a decade, there have been over 100,000 people dead. The drugs continue to flow, so one has to ask, to what end was this strategy devised and implemented? Those drug traffickers, when they come back, as soon as the pressure is lifted, are going to have to reestablish turf lines. They can't litigate this in front of a judge, and they can't see, as my friend Eric used to say, you can't go to a judge and say, Your Honor, I've been dealing drugs in this neighborhood for 15 years, and this upstart gang took over my turf, please kick them out. They can't do that. They have to settle their disputes through violence or threats of extreme violence, and that's when the vengeance will come. So it's a short-sighted solution. Also, the real problems in the Philippines and in so many countries, both on the drug producing, the drug consumption end, are rooted in problems of poverty, despair, and alienation. To fight those problems, we solve a whole host of other social issues as well. What President Duterte is doing is a classic example of scapegoating. This is a term that goes all the way back to the Old Testament, to Leviticus, if I recall correctly, where the high priest would confess the sins of the village onto a goat, a literal goat. And they would drive that goat out of the village and say, there go all our sins and all our problems, we have cleansed ourselves. When you take a whole basket of social issues, rooted in poverty, despair, and alienation, and pin it on one group and say, if we just got rid of this group, these people, it's an eliminationist policy. It is setting the system up for a pogrom, for genocide, this level of dehumanization. And finally, I'll just say this. If you can substitute one of Duterte's speeches or any other speech by any other drug warrior, if you substitute the word Jew for the word drugs, it's a really good sign that you're probably scapegoating. And you cannot blame all society's problems on one particular group. We've seen this done too many times before. This is a global Trumpian moment. People are having tantrums all over the world. But easy answers are not the solution. And in fact, if I can quote The Simpsons, Bart Simpson in an early episode of The Simpsons runs against his opponent for class president. And Bart says, my opponent says there are no easy answers. Well, I say he's not looking hard enough. That is the problem with Duterte. That's the problem with Washington. That's why Fox News is so popular, that people think that easy answers are the solution. But the solutions to the drug problem are very often counterintuitive. You cannot kill your way to a healthy society. Thank you.
Woohoo! Thank you, Sanho Tree from the Institute for Policy Studies. Sanho Tree has been one of the most articulate voices for human rights, harm reduction, and a sensible and sane drug policy. Thank you again. Let's give it up again for Sanho Tree. I'm Eric Sterling from the Criminal Justice Policy Foundation, and it's my sad duty as a citizen of the world to stand here in front of the Philippine Embassy today to call upon President Duterte to abandon the policy that he has advocated of extrajudicial killing of drug users, suspected drug sellers. This not only violates international law, but of course it's in violation of the laws of the Philippines. We call upon President Duterte to have a change of heart, to change his policy. And we call upon all the citizens of the Philippines to oppose the president's claim. We are all sympathetic with the people of the Philippines who suffer from the problems of the illegal drug trade, who suffer from the crime caused by the illegal drug trade, who see the tragic effects on the lives of people that are ensnared in the illegal drug trade. We empathize deeply for citizens around the world suffer from the problems of the illegal drug trade. We recognize that the problems of prohibition are a driver of the problems of the illegal drug trade and of the health problems, the public health problems, the spread of disease, and the public order and public security problems that the Philippine people are so disgusted by and so unhappy with. But you don't get public order by abandoning the rule of law. You don't get public order and public safety by authorizing death squads. We have seen around the world the tragic effects when death squads get mobilized. And in the large numbers of people